guys? Welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over two different articles dealing with the subject of men marrying younger women and men actually ending their marriages and ending up with younger women. And of course, the women that aren't very happy about it. The first article is written by a woman, and she's going to go through this whole thing of pretty much just trashing guys that, God forbid, end their marriages that they're not happy to and end up with a younger woman. And you're going to see in this article she wrote, this happened to her, and she is definitely bitter. The second article is also written by a woman sharing the story of a guy who married a younger woman. He didn't leave his existing wife or girlfriend for a younger woman. He just married a younger woman initially, and how it didn't go very well. And I'm going to get a little more into that on the basis of my questioning whether this is the type of things that gals want to put out there to obviously try to make guys think twice about marrying younger women. And I'll come back to that. But the first one here, she's pissed off. No other way to sugarcoat it. It goes through all these reasons why men shouldn't do this and we're immature and all that crap. And I got to say this as I get into this, guys. It's interesting how pretty much the narrative is that if a woman ends a marriage with her husband, she is seen often as strong, courageous, empowered, brave, all these positive terms because she was able to walk away and get away from that guy and all that, you know. But if a guy does it, if he ends his marriage, well, then he is the exact opposite. He's the devil. He's abandoning his wife. He's abandoning his family. He's heartless. He's cold. He's cruel. You guys get the point. And statistically, I always see the number 80% thrown around. That 80% of the divorces are initiated by women. And don't get me wrong, there are guys out there that are obviously bad husbands, and it can be certainly warranted. But how many times is it simply, a lot of times the gals just simply, it's encouraged, especially nowadays. If one little thing is off, end it. And the guy who could have been a very good husband, loyal, never cheated, never swayed, worked hard, took care of the family, is just throws his hands up there and says, what the hell? And he gets raked over the coals by the courts. But again, if a guy does it, well, ends the marriage and he's the devil. It's ridiculous, okay? We all know this. So I'm going to go through this, guys. I'm going to I'll add my 2 cents along with her ranting and raving here, and we'll go from there. So it starts off, it says, on the subject of men trading up for younger women. Oh, my bad, guys. The title of this article is 4 Things I Tell Men Who Trade Up for a Younger Woman. Okay, off we go. On the subject of men trading up for younger women, I think we can assume the wife didn't just step aside, realizing she had reached that invisible expiration date on her butt. Some men don't leave a marriage without somewhere to go. So when we're on the subject of older men and younger women, we're probably talking cheating and lying as matchmaking bookends. So I gotta disagree right down there. A lot of guys will leave because they want to get the hell out of town. They're tired of her. They've been with her for years. They're miserable. They're moving on. Does it mean some guys are going to have already a backup in place? Yeah. And there are guys that cheat, but a lot of guys just want to get out of there. Guys I've known have been divorced and they ended it. They just want to get out of there. They weren't in any rush to be with another gal. Whilst the gals, the women that often will have a guy already in reserves, so when they either break up a marriage or end a relationship, boom, they already got a guy. She says, I always wonder, what do these A's Lotharios see when they look in the mirror? Do they worry about the potential deadly side effects of mixing? I don't know. Receptor blockers and vasodilators with Viagra. And there goes Rogaine. No, Rogaine. She misspelled that. Rogaine. No mixing that drug with a younger fertile female on the second set of kids are coming out, and hair growing out of their eyeballs and a few less chromosomes. You can tell right here in the beginning of this article how bitter she is. The reasons older men chase younger women have less to do with sex and everything to do with a profound desire to reassure ourselves that we still got it. It isn't just physical attractiveness, it is a whole masculine package of youth, vitality, and above all else, possibility. It's not that women our own age are less attractive, it's that they lack the culturally based power to reassure our fragile, aging egos that we're still hot and hip and filled with potential. Inspiring desire women young enough to be our daughters becomes the most potent of all anti-aging remedies, particularly when we can show off our much younger dates to our peers, says Professor Hugo Schweizer, Pasadena City College. Well, that's just his opinion, and I got to question a few things about that professor, but you can see here the bitterness already. Are there guys that will end a marriage so they can to fulfill their egos and all that? Yeah, of course. to be with the younger gals and to fulfill their egos and, look at this young hot chick on my arm. Yeah, of course. But a lot of times guys do it because they're miserable, so they end their marriage. Okay? And then they're attracted to naturally younger women for many different reasons. But as you can certainly guys imagine, and no surprise here, those guys are insulted left and right because of this. And let me tell you guys, I've mentioned this in previous videos. I wouldn't be here talking to you if this didn't happen. My dad was 24 years older than my mom. My dad was born 1922. Okay? Yeah. 1922. And after World War II, just like a lot of guys that came back from the war, he got married and wanted to put the past behind him. He got married to a gal about his age. And over the next decade or so, the baby boomer generation, my dad had 5 kids. And he was miserable. It was a miserable marriage, and it was just worse and worse as the years passed. And finally, he had enough. And sometime in the 60s, whenever that was, he ended it. And as you can imagine, he was seen as the devil and all that. And she, the stereotype wasn't any different then than is now. And eventually, he was single for a while. He wasn't waiting around he didn't leave because of some chick. He just wanted to get out and get as far away from her as possible. And he maintained a good relationship with the kids. He provided for them with the child support and all that. And he dated for a while, but eventually met my mom. And he started dating my mom. He was 45 at the time, and she was 21. And eventually in time, little old me was born, and here we go. And they had a happy marriage, and they really loved each other. But believe me, I wasn't there to observe, but I'm sure he got plenty of hate. And let me tell you, some of his kids had disdain for my mom for years, and it still went up till not too long ago. No joke. Anyhow, but the point is, it wasn't like he left on purpose just to get another chick, and he was just simply attracted to the younger gals because, he was just tired of the BS, and he wanted something different. And yeah, it is what it is. We are what we are. Get over it. She says, I'm not a therapist or professor of geriatric sex-related studies, but I am a woman who went through what is referred to perfectly as gray divorce due to my husband cheating with younger women. I did the filing, and I'm done the crying. But in spite of ending a relationship with someone I loved more than half my life, I now see him as sad and an utter idiot. Well, it's not cool that he was cheating. Now, I don't know the whole story here. Is it possible that maybe she was making him miserable for years? That's a possibility. Was something going on with her? That's a possibility. It's not mentioned. So you have to ask. Is it possible also she was a good wife to him? And actually really like a good wife, and what happened? That's a possibility too, and that's a shame. Okay? It's one thing if the wife is truly good to her husband and kind and loving, and I mean not just that she, cooked and cleaned and all that, but it was generally loving and kind and supportive and all that, and he did those things, then that's different. But I don't think that's the case. She says, here are 4 things I would say to any older man chasing after a younger woman. Number 1, go. You're most likely to become a burden to your wife who's held up her end of the bargain in 1,000 balls, including the kids, the house, the bills, the aging parents, your health issues, your bad decisions, your embarrassing conduct, while reverting to behavior more identifiable with a teenager than a grown man. Ouch. See how much the new girl likes worrying about all your too frequent colonoscopies. Number 2. While you think you're the envy of your friends with a younger woman on your arm, you're only advertising your deepest sense of failure. A girlfriend with a birth certificate the same year that you graduate college or within spitting distance of one of your children's grade A school years advertises your insecurity on every level. Bullshit. Believe me, if a guy is married for a number of years and doesn't work out and he's miserable, and believe me, his friends know this, and he ends it, and now he's with a younger woman, and I'm not saying like a ridiculous amount of years younger, like Hugh Hefner and some of those girls, but I'm talking, let's just say he's 50, and she's 32, or 35, or even 30, whatever, okay? Believe me, his friends, they're thinking like, high five, dude. The ones that aren't jealous and spiteful. They're not thinking about his insecurity or some bullshit like that. Come on here. Number 3, you probably boozed away any sense of responsibility for your poor decisions, and finding your self-respect may be more elusive than finding your hairline. Don't look for it from people who really cared about you. They may still love you, but the respect is sagging just like your pectoral muscles. What'd I tell you about her being bitter? Ouch. Number 4, You trade your once life partner for a partner in crime. What comes around goes around, my dear. Enjoy. I advise learning to live with regret, and just so you can identify what regret is. And she says in parentheses, since you're full of self-justification, but devoid of any authentic feelings of conscience. That's the feeling you get every time you write a check for for child support for people whose lives you're not really included any longer. Breaking the hearts of everyone who loved you comes with a stiff price tag and not just a court-ordered one. Again, she said the guy was cheating and said multiple women and all that, and okay, not cool. I agree with that, but the bitterness here, and we've seen this, different articles I've covered over the last couple of years when the guys are marrying younger gals and the women are pissed off about it because they feel like, hey, you're taking our guys. Well, you probably had your chance with guys when you were younger, but you're busy doing what you do. She says, after my brother became a widower, he discussed his feelings with me about being single at 50. When I mentioned something about the probability he'd begun dating younger women, he looked at me like I was seriously delusional. My brother is a confident, well-adjusted, successful person with many accomplishments and talents. Dating women he'd have to explain the last 2 decades to while they were still potty trained sound like he put in pure torture. So he's the big hero, and this is coming from her words that pretty much he would, at 50 years old, he would never want to date someone way much younger than him. Come on here. 50 is 6 years older than me. And believe me, it's not all horrifying to date a woman in her late 20s, early 30s. Come on here. Preferably late 20s. She says he's now happily committed to a wonderful woman, vastly accomplished herself, mirroring his happy approach to life, and who happens to be a couple years older than him. I'm sure that makes her happy. They're an anomaly, I tell you. 2 people in their late 50s who found happiness with each other. It happens, but it's not a lot based on the guys I've seen online who say they're 50, look 60, and desire no one above 40 as potential dating material. Here we go. It's easy for the gals in their prime to get guys, teens and 20s, and in some cases very early 30s, if they're very good looking, take care of themselves. But as women get older, it's not as easy as it was when they were younger. And let me tell you, I say this all the time. I know plenty of beautiful women in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, but it doesn't compare to the prime. It is what it is. It's not as easy to get guys, but believe me, they work hard and take care of themselves. The gym, eating well, staying healthy, keeping their hair long, trips to the salon regularly, a little bit of makeup, dressing well. They can get guys. It's just not as easy as it once was. And I don't know how old she is. She said her husband, she didn't mention how old he is, but I'm guessing probably 40s. If she takes care of herself and all that, she can get guys too, but first she's got to let go of all this anger. And some anger is allowed, don't get me wrong, but eventually you bury it. Don't let him bring you down. But hating all guys and making men pretty much out to be the devil for, God forbid, ending their marriages, because a lot of it times it's warranted when guys walk away. And also the fact that men are attracted to younger women. Don't make us to be the devil here, because believe me, gals are attracted to a lot of superficial shit, or what is seen as superficial shit, just as much as we are. So my brother is also the avid golfer who told me after spending thousands of hours with other men on the golf course that just about every middle-aged man he's ever had the divorce conversation with said the same thing after a few years. With the younger wife or girlfriend they lost their family over. It had not been worth it. Well, my dad didn't say that. That I can tell you. Just like a new expensive car, the newness wears off surprisingly quick. They just trade one set of fixable issues for another set. That with years of an age difference widens significantly. My divorce attorney pretty much told me the same thing, telling me he gets a good deal of business from husbands when they divorce their trophy wives. She says some men just don't wake up. Some men don't just wake up one day and turn to shallow morons. They were just that way from the get-go. Ouch. I can now look back because the view is obstructed by my ex. I realize I fell for the very characteristics that would one day come back and bite me in the ass. I didn't poach him off another woman, but I knew he had a Peter Pan complex. Let's face it, some men are stupid, and you can't fix stupid. But you can divorce it. My stupid. I'm working on it, that, and forgiving myself. So she admits she kind of knew who he was before they got married. And she still married the guy. And she also says his characteristics that attracted her in the first place, obviously, came back to bite her in the ass. So she was aware of who she was marrying, getting into, as a lot of gals do. So you can't feel as sorry for them if they marry a type of guy. They flat out, they know, their gut tells them the guy's trouble. But again, I'm fair here. I'm not going to excuse him the cheating. That's just not cool. In my opinion, I do all these stories all the time. Stories, articles, emails from you guys about the women cheating on their guy, and he's a good guy and everything, and that's not cool, and I make that clear. It's also not cool for the guy cheating on a wife who's good to him too, and there are ones that are out there. Unfortunately, that's becoming less and less with how things are nowadays. But anyhow, just trashing all guys because God forbid they end the marriage and they end up with younger women, that's bullshit, okay? There are a lot of guys, again, that have married younger women are quite happy, okay? And there are also guys, let's be honest here, they get involved with them, and these girls are gold diggers. And they end up being divorced from them, and they're miserable. So it does happen. So for you guys out there that are married right now and you end it, and you end up with a younger chick, or let's just say you are divorced and you're dating different younger women, and you have the idea back of your mind, I want to get married one day, just be careful. I always tell you be careful, but especially be careful. Because if you got some money and resources, watch out for those gold diggers. Now, the second article, titled, I Married a Younger Woman, Here's Why I Regret It. And this story, the article is written by the woman telling this guy's story, how he got together with a younger woman. She was like 22 and he was 33, and things didn't exactly work out very well. But this is different than the situation where somebody was actually married, ended it, and then was with a younger woman. Okay, and again, I question sometimes when I read these articles where it makes the guy being regretful of his choices like this. Is this literally picked and chose so that it would maybe sway guys not to do these types of things? I always have to question that. But also the fact that, guess what? Whether the guy's with a woman his own age or he marries a younger woman, ultimately they all end up being miserable. So who knows? That being said, getting into it, the quote for this article in the beginning says, she blew up our lives and had a lot more time to rebuild hers than I do. Mark, 57 years old, and met Sarah, 45, at a conference when he was 33 and she was 22. And they hit off immediately in spite of an 11-year age difference. At that time, they were living on opposite coasts, so they did long distance for several years before deciding to get married. For a long time, their age gap didn't seem to be an issue. They both were young enough to have kids, their sex life was amazing, and they connected on every level. When we first met, I was sort of immature for my age, and she was quite mature for her age. We sort of met in the middle, he said. But after almost 25 years of marriage, it all came crashing down. Says here, number one, I had to deal with a lot of social stigma. Studies have shown that there's a lot of social stigma surrounding age gap relationships, and that younger people, somewhat surprisingly, are more likely than older people to assume that the pairing of partners in different life stages is an exchange-based relationship, i.e., sex in exchange for resources, rather than one based on love. Well, there's a lot of truth to that. There really is, but there's also a lot of people that, even though there's a big age difference, they really click. My mom and dad just clicked. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure my mom very much enjoyed being with a man who was 24 years older, that had resources, had status. My dad was a doctor. He was a commander in the Navy. He hadn't retired yet, so he was technically still in the Navy. I'm sure those were definitely very nice perks, but they really clicked. And you could tell because they clicked until they were, until my dad passed away in 2019. God rest his soul. A quotation that says here, she came from a much wealthier family than me, so I didn't have resources to bring to the table, he says. But I definitely felt that judgment the first year we were together. When I talked about her, there was definitely the sense from my friends, come on, she's 12 years younger than you. What are you doing here? There was less of that when we got married because by then we had been together a number of years, and then we moved to a city where most of our friends were artists who were leading all sorts of alternative lifestyles and were more open-minded about the gap. Well, at the end of the day, while it's important to listen to your bros, because your bros is your circle, is your your board of directors in a sense for life. At the end of the day, you gotta do what you want to do. So if anybody doesn't like what you do, you have to question some of those things. The people that you trust, okay, if they have something to say, you can listen to them. But at the end of the day, you gotta do what's best for you. And if he's also addressing just people in general having an issue, well, the hell with them. You do what you want to do, make you happy. But you just got to listen to people, be aware, but ultimately do what makes you happy. Number two, I was concerned everyone would think she was just a trophy wife. There's a lot of issues here with his concerns about what other people think, okay? Any guy with has any balls, any masculine man, doesn't give a crap what other people think. He's going to do what he wants to do. Weak guys care what everybody thinks. Weak guys care about pleasing everyone. Maybe it's a possibility this is why things didn't work out so well. Women don't respect guys that go around caring everybody else thinks and being impacted by that. They like guys that do what they want to do. Says many people in relationships with significant age differences complain that the stereotypes that people have surrounded them are especially unkind. If you're a younger man with an older woman, like Hugh Jackman and Deborah Lee Furness, people think the man must be in the closet. If you're an older man with a younger woman, everyone assumes that she's just with you for the money. Mark felt the stereotype constantly while they were together, and he knows it haunts him when he talks about her even now. Haunts him even now? Dude, get over it. There's no way anyone reading this is going to say anything other than, oh, here's this older schmuck who got himself a trophy wife, but she was an extraordinary person, and I totally fell for her, and she fell for me. I recently found a box of old love letters we sent each other, and we really loved each other. And that's how she felt, obviously, at the time. But things changed over the years, okay? Because he said they were together for 25 years, and you're going to see here, obviously, things didn't go very well. But I got to wonder, did he turn her off? Because right here you can tell the way he writes and talks about. The lady's writing the article, but it was writing on what he said, caring what everybody thinks and all this stuff and all this insecurity. That shit turns women off. And it's very likely that carried into the marriage. Number 3. She cheated on me with a man closer to her own age. Aha. Like any married couple that had been together for over a decade, Mark and Sarah had their problems. But he was shocked when 2 years ago she revealed that she'd been having an affair for almost a year. He was even more surprised when a few months later she announced she wanted a divorce. Want to tell you about the girls having guys for backup? And remember the first article when the woman was pissed off because the guy left it with another woman? That obviously was already in the picture. Well, they do it too. Right here. He said, I knew that we had issues, but I figured they didn't add up to something overwhelming. I thought we were rock solid. Sadly, this is not uncommon, given that women initiate up to 80% of divorces and men often don't see the signs coming. The fact that Sarah left him for a man closer to her age still nags at him. He says she swore repeatedly that his age had nothing to do with anything, he says. But it's one of those things that gets into your head and you can't get out of. I don't buy the whole thing his age wasn't part of it. Okay, I'm sure that wasn't the reason. It's probably just after 25 years being with this guy. You know my opinion on marriages. After a while, people pretty much run out of things to talk about. There's attraction's gone. There's no sex life. But it doesn't justify cheating by either party. But I'm sure it helped he was a little bit younger, probably a little more energetic. But I don't think that was the sole reason. And it ain't cool, don't get me wrong. But again, back to the first article I did, it goes both ways. Number 4. She blew up our lives, and she has a lot more time to rebuild hers than I do. Dude, you're not that old. You're in your 50s, you're going to say. You're not that much older than me. And I don't think I'm old, so therefore you can rebuild. Mark was devastated by the divorce, and one of the things that made it even more difficult was the realization that he was suddenly re-entering the dating pool as a much older man than when he left. He says, when you're married for such a long time, you stop really thinking about age. So one of those things about the breakup that was hard was I suddenly realized, oh man, I'm old. No, you're not. And on top of that, it felt unfair that his wife not only got to essentially replace him, but was also dating again with a much better age advantage than him. She blew up our lives and has a lot more time to rebuild hers than I do, he says. Okay, she's younger than you, but you know what? You're a guy, even though you're in your 50s, guess what? I've read many times a man's peak is 50. I have a hard time believing that, but okay, that sounds all nice and rosy for us older guys. But he's older. He's got resources. He has the ability. There are a lot of women like men in their 40s and 50s. They like the silver foxes. So this guy, they're thinking, if indeed he wants to date and have somebody else one day, there are things he can do to take care of him. So he can, if he's out of shape, he can join a gym, get on a fitness program, hire a trainer, start lifting, get in good shape, change his diet, lose weight, start dressing better, get a little more stylish, things like that. Make that silver fox look work for him. Or if he's balding, buzz the head, go for the look like Jason Statham, whatever you want to go for, that could help his case. And he can get gals, all right? It's actually harder for her because she's a lot older. I don't know what she looks like, but it's easier for an older man than it is for an older woman, absolutely. Number 5, I was apprehensive of dating younger women. He wrote this wrong, or she wrote this wrong. I'm apprehensive of dating younger women seriously now. Mark moved to another city and landed feeling broken and has passed his expiration date. But as it turns out, he's still got plenty of mileage left. You're darn right he's got plenty of mileage left. As a well-regarded artist and conventionally attractive man, he's had a lot of success on the online dating circuit, and even began seeing someone regularly who was much closer to his age than his wife was. When I ask if he ultimately believes that marrying someone who is significantly older or younger than you is a bad idea, he says it depends on the couple, and that an age gap between someone in their 20s and 30s is almost insignificant. But at the same time, he also recognized that if he fell in love with someone who was in her early 30s now, he'd be very apprehensive of letting it turn into something serious. He says, and finishing this up, if I were seriously involved with someone significantly younger now, I'd always be thinking, I'm aging out here. She would be in the prime of her life, and I'd be an old man. I love my kid, but I don't want any more, and I wouldn't want to deprive her of anything. So there you go, guys. That article, again, I don't think it acts on purpose, showing that the guy didn't work out with the younger woman. So therefore, but it's working now that he's dating someone that's older. So I have to question whether that was written on purpose to sway the masses, so to speak, of guys out there. You never know. But also you can look at it as, hey, his wife of 25 years, who was younger than him, did the same thing that the guy did to the woman in the first article. So it goes both ways. So demonizing men, making them out to be the villains, as the woman did in the first thing, not cool, because there are women that do just as bad things to guys. Okay? And also, one could say that, well, whether the guy marries a woman who's close to his age, like in the first article, or he marries a woman younger, he's still miserable. Things don't work out. So who the hell knows? It's a big mess. But I provide the entertainment here. I provide these things and talk about things and raise questions, get people thinking. So, but anyhow, guys, that'd be going to go over here. But again, at the end of the day, this is a men's channel, and we talk about these things, and again, it shows how the gals get quite bitter about the guys dating younger women. And there are times it doesn't work out, and there are times it does work out. Like I said, I wouldn't be here if it didn't work out, because it did work with my mom and dad, and my dad was 24 years older than my mom, and they had a happy marriage. And even though a lot of people think that I was raised in this horrible household, and therefore that's my attitude and why I do these things, because I'm bitter and broken. Couldn't be any further from the truth. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know what you think about the whole attitude towards guys dating the younger gals, or ending marriages and eventually ending up with younger gals. I'd like to hear your opinion on that. Has it happened to you? Have any of you guys been married and it ended, whatever reasons, and you started dating or got married to a younger woman, and what was the impact of that from your ex, your kids, the family, everybody else? I'd like to hear about that. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.